that's not healthy, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't do it if it's a bad situation and the coach is, saying things he shouldn't be saying, then that's a different conversation. But competition is very important in your growth. And I think all of us grow more when we're being pushed. That's where you get better, is when someone's competing with you.
Yeah. Welcome to the Hope in Real Life podcast with Jason Gore. Our team is passionate and committed to bringing you more hope in the everyday, real areas of your life. If this conversation and content is valuable for you, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and even share. You never know how valuable it could be to share a little bit of hope with someone else. Let's get the conversation started. Well, hello, Hope in Real Life family. We are here with you this week with a brand new episode and a very special guest. We are going to be talking about raising young athletes in the world of sports, and our very special guest is head football coach Dave Doeren from the NC State Wolfpack. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Big topic today, but before we jump into the topic, I'd love for you just take a moment and talk about yourself for a minute. Let us know who the man is that we've got here on the show.
Just a kid, still coaching the game he loves. Been married now almost 26 years to Sarah, 3 boys. Going to be an empty nester in July. So got some prayers out there for that. That would be welcomed. But yeah, 3 sons, 1 at App State, 1 at NC State, and 1 headed to East Tennessee State. So been here 11 years, going on 12, which is a long time in coaching.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is a long time.
I'm 5th in the country in tenure now, which is pretty crazy for a college football coach, but blessed to live in Raleigh and have been here this long.
Yeah, man. Just keep building into these kids and just keep winning.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, you said you have 3 kids. They play sports?
So yeah, Connor will play football at East Tennessee State.
Okay.
Yeah, Luke played high school football. Jacob was track, and he's into the cars, and that's his life right now.
Yeah. Well, Coach, when we were talking about hey, what's the best thing to engage as it relates, we know a lot of young people raising kids these days in the sports world, and we kind of got off on this tangent about how we talk a lot about how kids are different these days. And to some degree they are. I mean, I coach youth sports as well, not to the same level that you do, obviously, but kids are a bit different these days from when I grew up. But you said a very specific and crucial thing. You said, but we don't talk about how maybe parents are different these days as well. What was it that kind of led you to that point? Help us unpack that for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I've been coaching 30 years now, and so in a lot of ways, kids are changing because the times have changed. The social media, the cell phone, the technology in their hand. Classes are online. I mean, all these things are making them grow up differently. But from my eyes, when I'm coaching them, the things that have changed, it's really not them. It's how they're being brought up and the things they're not doing, maybe that we did in our generation growing up with you get out of school and you go meet everybody at the schoolyard and everybody plays until dark. Yeah. And you go home and it was every day, that you were competing and doing different things and playing multiple sports. And so things have changed a lot, and I think the parental involvement has changed a lot. You hear all the buzzwords about that, but, back then the teacher was always right, the coach was always right. And you had to solve your own problems. You had to suffer through that and learn how to deal with it and communicate with people. And so now you're getting the phone call from the parent about the kid instead of the kid coming to you and saying, hey, coach, I'd really like to talk to you about something. So a lot more parental involvement is the biggest change I see.
What if you could say, hey, because we got a lot of listeners, probably young parents out there, and maybe they got middle schoolers, maybe they got high schoolers, but if you could offer what is a healthy role or a healthy perspective on parental involvement in the life of a young athlete?
Yeah, I think obviously taking that word as it is, parental involvement is a very positive thing. I think young people need to learn to communicate, and they need to learn how to solve problems better, and they need to have some common sense in that. And they're going to fail. That's part of growing up. And I think letting them fail and talking them through what that failure is and giving them advice on how to deal with the failure is great.
Yeah.
But solving the problems for them is the issue, in my opinion. The kids need to be able to have these discussions and how to advocate for themselves, because that's what the real world's going to be for them, is learning how to advocate for themselves. And And so I think that's the biggest thing is, support your sons and daughters and give them great advice, seek counsel when needed. But when it comes to the moment of truth, I guess, having those tough conversations, they need to learn how to do that and to have eye-to-eye, not text conversations with people that matter.
Why do you, could you speculate at all? Do you have any speculation? I'm sure you probably have, but what has been the change primarily for parents that's led them to be a bit less, hey, if you got in trouble in practice, if you got in trouble in school, you need to shape it up versus let me call this teacher and find out what the teacher did wrong?
It's a great question. Entitlement's a big deal, not just with athletes, but the country in general.
Right.
People feel like they have the right to do those things. And the cell phone is to blame, in my opinion, and not that I don't have one or use one, I do. But you used to go to school as a kid and you were gone.
Right.
And your parents weren't talking to you or anyone else, until you came home from school or practice or whatever you had. And now there's the check-ins throughout the day and how you doing, honey? And, oh, I forgot my lunch, Mom, all that stuff. They just don't have to solve their own problems the same way because of access. And I think that's the biggest thing is we have access to all the information all the time whenever we want it, which has created more interaction. And that's not a bad thing, but it can be overused.
Right. So you got parents that say you've got one who wants to see their child succeed. They want to see them maybe have some success that they didn't have. We know that parents can have a tendency to live vicariously through their children. Maybe We'll come back to that one in a moment. But if you had to encourage a parent on, hey, it's not just sports. Let's talk about developing a well-rounded young man, whether it's school, whether it's involved in other activities. Is there anything that you've seen hey, when a young man has these things in their lives along the way, there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to succeed when they get to a program like what you're running?
I say this to our players all the time. Show up early, have gratitude, use the golden rule, work harder than the people in the room and stay a little bit longer than they do, and you'll be in the top 5%.
Yeah. And
just do that.
Yeah.
And if you have a hard day, so what? Learn from it and go to the next one.
Yeah.
But I think that's just a hidden skill is just showing up with a good attitude when you're supposed to be somewhere, act the way you're supposed to act. If there's 10 people in the room, be the best worker in the room, and that's it. Just compete. And I think just having a routine of competing that way. And we all want to trust our athletes. That's as a coach, the number one thing you want to trust, and they want to trust us. And trust is built over time through consistent behavior.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing I would say as a parent, you just want to build that where they understand this is how I'm going to go earn respect, how I'm going to go earn trust is through consistency and work ethic. Yeah,
we had John Deloney on the show last week, and he kind of alluded to this a bit. Joe Rogan, who has not been on the podcast, but Joe, if you see this, you should come hang out with us at some point. But he says, man, you don't, if you just show up and work at a medium level of hard in today's world, you're going to be so far above the majority of the people.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be it's hard work and then who has the most talent, but now, man, you just see people that maybe don't have the talent, but if they're just willing to show up and put in the work, treat people well, build trust through consistency over time, and you just see the sky's the limit for them. But
yeah, I think the opportunities are for everybody out there that has that type of demeanor about them. And I think that's where the allowing them to have an easy out is really detrimental. And you see it with college sports, obviously, and high school sports now with all the transferring going on. And I was talking to Bradley Chubb about this weekend, and he just
Go
said,
Dolphins.
What do you think about that? And I said, I think they're robbing our youth of the opportunity to understand adversity.
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely.
Yeah.
He said that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we talked to so Coach Donald, the head coach over at Garner. We have conversations regularly. It's just so different. And thankfully, he just doesn't care about this at all. He is a man of integrity, and he's like, if you don't want to be here, go play somewhere else. But there's this thing, you have a highly talented player that seemingly comes with expectations, and maybe the parent has expectations. And the truth is, they might just go play football in another high school right down the road. You just didn't do that when I was growing up. It's this is your team, this is your coach, and you might not like them, but if you want to succeed, you got to learn how to work within those boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, when I grew up, if a kid transferred, it was because he got kicked out of school.
Right.
I mean, he got in a fight or whatever happened. You know what I mean? The kids didn't leave because they wanted to; they left because they had to.
Right.
Parents were moving, whatever it was, and yeah, I just that ability to have grit and sustain challenging situations and be a competitor gets taken away when you can leave whenever you want to leave.
Yeah.
And I think, the coach at Garner's got a great mentality about it. I mean, ultimately, you want to coach people that want to be there.
Right.
You want to create a culture that endears people to that as well,
Right.
That they have pride about being in your program. Yeah. But, when you have 4 or 5 guys or girls in your team element and they got 1 foot in and 1 foot out, that's not good,
Right.
Particularly if they're getting it at home. You didn't play enough, we're just going to take you somewhere else. Like, that's not healthy, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't do it if it's a bad situation and the coach is, saying things he shouldn't be saying, then that's a different conversation. But competition is very important in your growth. And I think all of us grow more when we're being pushed. That's where you get better, is when someone's competing with you.
Yeah. So I've got some young athletes that live under my roof, and man, I tell you, it's been a journey. Like, to realize, like, okay, how do I? And then sometimes they're playing sports where I have some experience, and so I end up coaching them. And so it's been a journey for me to learn, like, what's the line between my expectations on them versus their expectations on themselves, and when those things don't match up, and how to be coach, how to be dad. But obviously, there's some parents. It's difficult. I actually think it's difficult if you're not intentional about not letting this idea of living vicariously through your children. I think it sneaks in and we don't realize it. But one, have you seen that? Do you see that a lot? And then 2, what are some signs? Like, if there's a listener out there, what are some signs you could say, hey, you might be living vicariously through your child if?
Yeah. I mean, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line. You want your parents to cheer for their sons and daughters out there. They should be, right? And my mom's the biggest cheerleader there is when it comes to my success, And so when does it get overbearing? Probably when they're in the middle of every conversation bragging about it, right? Yeah. And I think particularly when they're blaming other people for their son or daughter's faults, their performances or whatever that is. The greatest growth comes when you own your own stuff, right? And for our athletes and our coaches, same thing. If we don't do something well, just own it.
Right.
I got to be better in this area, and then let's get a plan together and let's go get better. I think as a parent, be a cheerleader, support your sons and daughters, cheer for the teammates too. I think that's cool when you're in a crowd and you hear somebody's dad cheering for one of his friends' sons playing. I think that's awesome. Yeah. But I think when you get involved and start blaming the coach or this, you see it a lot where they start saying, "Oh, my son's better than that kid. He should be playing." Like, that's not good for their son to hear.
Right. Yeah.
The conversation should be, how can we get better?
Yeah.
Let's meet with coach. What are the areas that you're struggling in now? What's a good plan? Like, what can we do to make these things better? And if you spend your energy on the improvement aspect of it instead of the comparison aspect of it, I think there's a lot more growth capable.
Yeah. There's a book, Atomic Habits, and the author, he talks about how so many of us, like, it used to be about setting goals. And so the goal could be to be the starting quarterback or to be the starting running back, or I'm going to win the 100-yard dash. Well, the reality is everybody that lines up on the 100 before the gun goes off has the same goal, but everybody's not going to win. And so he kind of breaks it down into, hey, like, what's the actual plan that you're going to put in place? And then just focus on that. And then let's just see if the other things don't start stacking.
And we say begin with the end in mind. So the end, we want to win the ACC championship, right? That's our goal. After that is how are we going to do it, and then it gets into the players. Like, what this player has to do to be good enough for us to do that is this. And then we sit down and create the plan. And then, all right, this is how many days we have left. So we got to get this done in 42 days. What are we going to do? Let's plan out each day and break it down and then get into winning the day and just bite it off a day at a time. And then you can achieve the goal. You can be the ACC champ, or you can be the starting quarterback, or whatever the goal is. But if your focus is all on the goal, you're not getting anything done.
Right. Hope in Real Life family, I want to take a moment and let you know about a resource that we have for you for your own personal development, spiritual enrichment, and really a way for you to find a bit more hope in real life. We have a tool for you called the Hope in Real Life app. It offers things like parenting tips, financial resources, marriage insights. If you're looking for it, there's even Bible reading plans in there. And there's a community where you can even share prayer requests and know that someone is praying for you for whatever it is that you have going on in your life. It's available right now in the Apple App Store or in Google Play. You can search Hope in Real Life in both stores, or you can use the download link that is in the show notes. Remember, tomorrow can be better than today, and hope is possible even in real life. Let's talk about, so you mentioned putting a plan in place, which is, I would recommend to any parent that comes to me and says, hey, how can my kid do better on the field? And it's like, well, don't worry about that. And let's talk about what plan you have to get them up to that point. But in light of that, you've got, in today's world, you've got, you could play in tackle football leagues in the youth world, 3 out of the 4 seasons a year if you wanted to. You could wrestle year-round, basketball, AAU year-round. What are your thoughts on, year-round training schedule for, let's say, for elementary, middle school, and high schoolers?
Yeah, I got asked this at our clinic we did over the weekend. I love multi-sport athletes personally. One, it teaches them how to be on different teams, how to interact with different athletes, different coaching styles, trains different muscles because they're moving differently in those sports. And it keeps them competing in games, which I think is the ultimate part of this, is learning how to compete. The one sport athlete has one season of competition, and then the rest of the season is basically practice. Right. And so they're losing out on the teamwork. They're losing out on that. I know they're still getting coached when they're trained. And in some cases, I think that some of their muscle groups get kind of locked into one thing. You don't have that when you go from football to basketball to track. You're using different muscles, and you're helping your body stay healthier by doing that. The travel team aspect of it too. I've never had a son go through that. I witness it a lot. It seems pretty crazy to me.
Yeah.
That they're all over the country doing all this stuff and not on their scholastic teams with their kids they grew up with. But from what I understand, that's kind of the way it is in some sports to get recruited.
Yeah, I can tell you from my vantage point, again, from the middle school, high school side of life, you can see the programs that somehow, or the communities that somehow keep kids playing together from a young age in their community versus getting divided up and going to play on this high-level talent team over here and this high-level team. The chemistry that they have, the ability to, they know how to compete with one another, seems like it sets them up to succeed at a higher level. But
yeah, we just had a really good football player named Peyton Wilson that was a great wrestler.
Yeah.
And our best defensive lineman coming back, Davin Van, was a great wrestler in high school. I think those things are big, and a lot of quarterbacks were pitchers, you just see that. And to me, they're getting good at being a competitor. They're getting good at being coached. They're getting good at leading. They're getting good at learning how to fail and learning how to succeed. And there's more to it than just going to these big turf gyms that they have now and you're working on one sport.
Yeah, I wasn't going to harp on this, but you kind of lobbed me a softball here. If you had to say what's the best sport to play other than football, what would you say?
For a football player, it's wrestling.
Okay,
for sure.
You heard that. For a football player, it's wrestlers. I'll tell you why, and I know I'm biased, right? And wrestled my whole life, but what I love about wrestling is the things that you said already. Man, it's really hard to step on a line face to face with another young man with one referee and blows a whistle. And at that point, your mom can't save you. Your dad can't save you. The ref can maybe make a bad call, but you still got more time to make a decision. Your teammates can, and look, football was my first love growing up. Honestly, still is. My son wrestles. He plays football. He loves football. There's just something about 11 guys working together to pull something off. It's just, man, how can something be more engaging than that and more exciting? But there's no offensive line to block for you. There's no pass rush to make your life easier as a DB. It is you can't hide. And so if you don't get it done, you just got to go back to work again.
Yeah.
And so I think that I've seen in football players as well, like when you develop that level of mental toughness that I think comes from wrestling, I think it sets you up to succeed in just about anything. But again, I'm biased, but I could see it.
We went and visited the Navy SEALs when I was coaching at another school, and their lead recruiter came in the room and addressed our team like we were new recruits, basically, and said that their first two things they look for are wrestlers and football players when they're recruiting, because they've been tested and they understand teamwork and they understand failure and they know how to get up and fight. And particularly in wrestling, you're in the arena with one person. It's a test of will, skill, and mental toughness. I mean, that's what it is, and so that's a huge carryover when you talk about being a good football player.
In some of our conversations recently on this topic, you have regularly said something like, hey, it's not the way it was when we were coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about what was a part of your upbringing that instilled in you what makes you the coach that you are and have the philosophy that you have as a coach today.
Well, I had great parents. They were hardworking people. I started working in 4th grade, so I learned the value of $1 early.
Wow.
In my life, and was caddying, carrying bags, and washing golf balls and changing battery acid out in golf carts and all that stuff, and did that until I started painting houses in the summers. And all along, I was always playing all the sports, and I had great coaches. My basketball coach, Tom Caldwell, was also my boss as a painter. So me and like 6 football players would paint homes for him in the summers, and he'd boss us around. But I just had tremendous support around me in the coaching aspect. My football coaches, my basketball coaches, they were tremendous. My grandfather was a coach, and I mean, he was tough. He was a great guy. He'd take me out in the driveway, teach me stuff in basketball, and we had 30 some odd cousins. And if there was an argument, you were either pulling weeds or he was putting boxing gloves. He put boxing gloves on us and had us fight it out. So I mean, that's just how I was raised. And that you should work hard, you should treat people right, you should have respect for your elders, and that you should listen, to the people that have more wisdom than you.
Yeah. It's amazing how, and again, we started this whole conversation around maybe parents have changed. But man, when I look back on my life, and by no means am I in a perfect place today, but I did have a mom and a dad that loved me. And while they weren't perfect, I mean, they were divorced and it was tough going back and forth and weekend to weekend, but they did instill a certain set of values, and they did know when to say enough's enough. But I remember my dad told me when I was graduating from high school that he prayed my whole life that he knew he wasn't going to be around as much. Parents were divorced, but he prayed that I would have coaches and influencers in my life that would point me in the right direction. And to this day, whether it was my JV football coach, Coach Bill Boyette, or whether it was our varsity football coach, Coach Bill Devine at Cary High School, or Jerry Winterton, my wrestling coach, I mean, I regularly reach out to those guys and say, I just want to let you know, this is where my life is right now, and I have no idea how I would be here if it wasn't for the leadership and for the work ethic that you invested. It showed us and modeled us and called us into. And so, I don't think enough can be said for getting athletes and young folks around people that can build into them and probably call them into something harder than what comes natural for a parent in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think youth coaches have such an opportunity to help, and serve and guide and lead and mentor, maybe now more than ever. And they have a tough job, because the parents are critiquing them in a different way than they used to, a lot different way, particularly with what people just pop off on social media about people, I mean, so they have a much more public job than they used to.
Right.
But man, they can have such an impact on the youth, and you have no idea, where, at least in my life, I would have had no chance without some of the things I learned from my coaches.
I'm going to jump on that for a minute. So I started, and this has zero to do with me and everything to do with what you just said about the impact that youth coaches can have. And, we live in a world right now, and this podcast is called Hope in Real Life. We live in a world that, man, it's not easy to start feeling a bit hopeless. And, but sports are a way to kind of help put families on the right track. And so I would say, I think it was 9 years ago, I made a decision to start coaching youth football. And to be perfectly honest with you, it was my kid's going to play. He's kind of young, but he wants to play. I kind of just want to make sure the kid's not going to get killed. And so I'm going to, and I know a little bit. And so I'm going to go out there and I'll carry water jugs. I'll do whatever and I'll be quiet unless I don't need to be.
Right.
And that was my attitude going in. But what I realized was, man, this was probably one of the best opportunities I've ever experienced in my life to serve families, to help people build community, to model for people what it means to be a young man, what it means to, hey, thank your parents for bringing you to practice. And now I sit back and, 9 years later, and kids that I had to coach, that I had the privilege of coaching and being part of their family for, whether it's 3 years in elementary school, 3 years in middle school, and now they're freshmen, sophomore, juniors in high school, making plays, and they're being respectful, they're making good grades. There's kids that are, I know we have a lot of listeners that don't have any idea who God is, and that's great. Though I hope you find out. Like kids started coming to the church, and just this past week, I got a text message from a mom for a kid who goes to another campus saying he made a decision to follow Jesus and wants to get baptized. And these are things that you don't experience unless you actually jump in. And so I say that just to tag off of what you said. If you're listening and you're trying to find a way, hey, how can I find some purpose? Because I know it's hard in this life to find purpose. You have no idea what a blessing you can be to a community by just saying, you know what, I don't know everything about coaching, but I'm going to jump in and I'm going to make a way for a kid to be able to play a sport and do all I can do to be a positive impact on their life. I want to get on, we've talked a lot about parents, we've talked a lot about families. I just want to talk about athletes just for a moment. There's a lot of athletes, I don't say a lot, there are some athletes out there whose talent is through the roof, and for whatever reason, it seems like they could be more focused on individual stats versus overall team success, kind of a me over a we mentality. And I could share stories. I'm sure you could do the same. What would you say to that?
Well, the most recognized athletes are on the winning teams.
That's right.
You don't see a lot of all-conference players on teams that can't win games. And so I think it's more of a cultural thing. You have to preach that if we play for each other and we win games, that you're going to get recognized, and your stats are going to come if you do what the right things are for your teammates. And football is, it's 11 people at once working in unison to create a positive play, and if one of the 11 doesn't do it, it usually doesn't work out. It's a unique sport that way. And I've always said it's one of the greatest laboratories of life. There's 120 plus kids in our locker room from everywhere. And one parent, no parent, two parent, four parents, you name it, different religions, economic backgrounds, you name it. But they all want to play and they all want to win. And so at the end of the day, it's about what is going to help us win the game. And there's going to be games where certain guys get the ball more than other games for a variety of reasons. But I think selfish is what that is. If it's all about me, it's not about the team. Doesn't work very well. Right. On winning football teams doesn't work well at all. But when everybody starts playing really hard for each other, all of a sudden you start making plays, because the plays work better when the guys work together like that. And sometimes they just haven't had that experience. They've been on bad teams and they're the guy or the girl and they're used to carrying it, but pretty soon that doesn't work. Right. They get on a team like surrounded by other talented players. There's some growing that has to take place, sharing the ball if you're a basketball player, whatever it is. But I think it's more about the team than it is the individual if you want individual accolades. Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's good for parents to remember very small percentage of athletes are going to play D1 football. Yeah. Even smaller percentage, obviously, you're going to end up playing the NFL. Same thing could say for Major League Baseball, for basketball. And so at the end of the day, you might want your kid to be able to do that, whether that's because that's their goal or because you want to live vicariously through your child. But the likelihood of that happening is so small, especially if they don't go about their business the right way, because eventually they're going to hit a coach like you or Coach Donald that's going to say, hey, we've talked about this enough. You're either in or you're out. Right. And so at that point, your success gets limited. And so there's always something on the other side of football. And man, I just don't know of many successful people long-term in any industry across the board that don't understand it takes a team and it takes more than just me to get something done. And so what we don't realize as parents is we're actually feeding a monster if we don't get behind this the right way. That, yeah, they might score one extra touchdown in a game, but man, they're going to get fired as soon as they get out and get a real job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, coddling of America or whatever you want to call it, I think you're doing your son or your daughter a huge favor if you just let them fail and teach them how to work through it, how to be a grinder, how to handle tough things. That's going to prepare them more for life than helping them do it. And that's what we all want. Yeah, we want our sons and daughters to be successful high school athletes or middle school athletes and all that, but don't we want more for them to be successful in life, And I think that's the thing that's getting lost right now because I inherit the habits, you know what I mean? And I get a kid at 18 and I got 18 years of parenting or coaching or whatever it was that sometimes we have to change. This is how this is going to work if you want the results that you said you wanted. And so it's like anything, you have to practice it. You have to practice it with them. And I think getting them to state what they want, like, what do you want out of this? I want to play college football. All right, well, let's find out how we get there. Any college football coach will give them the same answer. You got to go to work.
Yeah.
Like, you got to work really hard to get there. And when I go into a school and talk to coaches, if they tell me how coddled this kid is and how entitled this kid is, that's a huge turnoff for me. I'm looking for the gym rat. Yeah. The kid that's tough, that's a good teammate. Like, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for the kid whose teacher or parent fixes all his problems for him. That's a huge red flag for us.
Hope in Real Life family, I want to pause for a moment and let you know about an opportunity that I believe can help you find a bit more hope in everyday life. Listen, I know a lot of our viewers probably aren't a part of a church, or maybe you gave up on the church a long time ago. And believe me, possibly for good reason. I understand. But I don't want you to miss out on the hope that you can actually experience by journeying alongside of a group of people that really are seeking God's best for their lives. If you are the least bit curious, we try to make this as simple for you as we possibly can. Wherever it is that you digest digital content, podcasts, you can go to the podcast store. You can check it out on YouTube and just search Hope Community Church. You'll be able to find our messages there and check those out. Or if you actually want to tune in during a service time, you can go to gethope.tv at 4:15 or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you can tune in at 9:30 or 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's at gethope.tv. We hope that you'll take a chance with us and experience what it is God has for you in your life. You're going to find practical messages that will help you find hope in the everyday moments of your life. Hope you'll check it out. So if you do have a young athlete that does want to play college sports outside of just athletic skill set, what are college coaches or college recruiters looking for to determine whether or not they'd be a good fit for their program?
Well, it's just assume that the person is already a great athlete, because obviously that's what we want first is he good enough to play here, right? After we've checked that box, then it's all the other stuff. What kind of teammate is he? What are his intangibles? Does he love to train? Because in football, we only play 12 games promised, and the rest of it's practice or lifting or running. It's blood, sweat, and tears until game day, And I like finding guys that love that. They love what goes behind the scenes, How are they to coach? How do they handle, when they screw up, What's their academics like? Look at the transcript. How many times are they tardy? How many times do they miss school? What do their grades look like? Talk to different people in the school about their personalities and what they're like with other people in the building. How do they treat people? I mean, there's a lot of questions that go into this, a lot of research. And at the end of the day, I've got 3 sons. My coaches all have sons and daughters. We're leaving our wives and our sons to go work with these kids every day for a lot of hours. And I want those hours to be with good people, and so we're looking for good people. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it. I think good people it's the price of admission to get in the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're a great athlete, or I wouldn't even be looking into them. But if they're not good people, they're probably not going to be a good NC State Wolfpacker. They're not, because I'm not going to tolerate that. And so I have to do a lot of homework on the front side of it. And so just, the more they can be good people at the school, what can they do to help others? How do they treat people in the building? Not only are they good teammates, they're good classmates. Teachers like being around them, and the type of person you would want your son or daughter to be. Like, that's what they need to be. They shouldn't be late. They shouldn't be making excuses. They shouldn't be missing their assignments. They shouldn't have a bad attitude. You know, I mean, it's an opportunity to advance their livelihoods by going to college on a scholarship. You know, it's a lot of money when you talk about getting a full ride.
Yeah.
And so they got to earn it.
Yeah.
And you earn it with good behavior.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of young athletes, or families for that matter, realize, okay, great, your kid's a great athlete. They're kind of a dime a dozen. I mean, there's some special guys out there, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of great athletes. And so if you're not putting the other things in place, if you're not doing those things, you're not going to get the result that you want. Well, Coach, I know we're coming up on time here, and we started out by saying, hey, let's help parents recognize maybe how they've changed. If you had to say anything else, I mean, obviously you said, hey, don't coddle your kids. Give your kids room to fail, and then teach them how to handle failure.
Yeah.
We've said, hey, don't focus as much on the goal, but focus on the process leading up to what it is that you want to see, and put that on paper, actually live that out. Anything else in final parting words? If you had one or two final words to say to parents right now that you want them to hear, this is your chance.
Yeah, I think just enjoy it. You know, you see too many people just miserable in the stands. Like, I go watch, my son played at Cardinal Gibbons, so I'd go to the games, and it's just a complete group of people, some of them cheering and some of them just complaining the entire game, yelling at the ref, yelling at the coach from the stands. And it's like, man, your son's going to be done playing this sport pretty soon. He'll never play football again. That's what I'm thinking, and you're missing it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just enjoy it. Enjoy game day. Enjoy talking to your son and daughter about practice, you know, and helping them get better. And don't forget that they're going to be out of the house pretty soon. You're not going to get it back.
Yeah.
We got to choose two things, you know, I mean, how we're going to have energy and how we're going to use our time. And that's about it. Like, and we don't get any of them back, you know, and that's the one thing. I mean, it's just, I have to remove myself from the stands a lot because I can't enjoy watching my son play if I'm listening to all that stuff, you know, and that gets missed a lot right now. And I think just enjoy the ride.
I don't know that you do have any of these. I didn't ask you this before the show, but are there any resources out there that you would recommend for any parents? Any influencer that you've had on you that would be good for our parents to check out?
That's a good question, and I don't know off the top of my head who I would give you. I think there's a lot of really successful coaches out there. Yeah. You know, I think just listening to some of the sound bites that I see them on ESPN all the time. You see them on Instagram all the time. I mean, I have so much respect for Kobe Bryant when you get into his demeanor as a competitor and what he was wired like as a worker. That was one of the most gifted athletes maybe ever in the sport, and see how hard he worked.
Yep.
Go back and look at how hard Jerry Rice worked as a professional football player and what his offseason program was as a receiver. Bill, when you look at, you know, Brady and his routine in his 40s and how crazy it was. These guys work really hard. And the coaches that were integral for me, for them, for anyone else, same thing. They were probably very authentic. They were probably very honest and truthful, and sometimes in a painful way, because you need to know what you need to get better at. Right. And I tell our players that, like, you should be happy when somebody tells you what you need to get better at, because that gave you the opportunity to improve. If we sugarcoat it, you're not getting better. Yep. So look for that, you know, not demeaning information, you know, constructive, demanding, truthful, loving information. I think that's love. Yep. When you tell a kid, I love you, but man, this has got to get better. Yeah.
We've got our middle school kids that are now high school kids to that point of thinking. I actually, if you were on our team, if a coach gave you instruction, told you to do up downs, told you to run gassers, when you're done, you say thanks, coach, period. Because he did that because he cares enough about you to help you get better. You mentioned Kobe Bryant. Man, I loved what he said one thing in an interview one time where he said, my philosophy was I would get up in the morning and I'd go to the gym and I'd do X, Y, and Z, you know, for 45 to 60 minutes, and then I'd shower up, and then I'd go to school, and then at lunch I would have this routine, and then I'd go to the practice where the team works out, and then I'd eat something, and then on 50% of days I'd do another workout after everybody left. And I just figured when I was in high school that if I could do that for 2 to 3 years, by the time I was a junior or a senior, the work had stacked up enough that I don't care how bad you want to beat me, you just don't have enough math left to
Right.
catch up to where I am. And I think if you really want to be great, and so much could be said for work-life balance and work-sports balance, and we talked briefly about travel sports and the impact that can have on the family. But man, if you want to succeed, if you have an athlete that puts in that kind of work, the reality is it's going to show when they hit the field. And when they hit the
No
court.
doubt.
And there's no guys like me and you or like you out there that are thinking, you know what, if I get a kid that busts his tail, does everything right, and has the athletic ability, that I'm going to hold back. And so,
Yeah, I mean, the key to winning games is your preparation.
yeah.
And he was the ultimate guy in preparing.
Yeah.
You talk about Kobe Bryant. And he did it for his own self-confidence, too,
Right.
because he knew that he had out-prepared everybody and that he was ready more than they were all the time. And, yeah, I mean, I just think getting into the leaders that are out there like that, and if you get into all the really, really all the way back to some of the greatest thinkers in the world, they all failed a lot.
Yeah.
And they wanted to learn through failure. And I just think it's such a great tool that people look at as failure is such a negative. It is, but only if you repeat it.
Yeah.
You know, every one of these times we have a stumble, it's because of a reason.
Yeah.
So study the reason and then don't let it happen again the same way.
Yeah.
And just keep doing it. And that's how you become the best version of yourself, you know.
Yeah. Elena and I were having a conversation right before we came in here. And we were just talking about how some leaders can seem like maybe they walk with a little bit of a limp, or maybe they got a little bit of a wall up. And I said almost the same thing. I don't know of any great leaders that haven't either failed and had to learn from it or gone through something incredibly hard in life. You just don't see it a whole lot. Before we sign off, I ask just about all of our guests one question. The podcast is Hope in Real Life. If you had to say over the next 5 years, any topic in the world, what are you most hopeful for in your life?
Ooh. Not football, just in...
No, it can be football. Yeah, it can be 5 ACC championships.
That's a given. Yeah. That's a given. You know, I think for me, it's just peace. You know, I mean, I deal with a lot of turbulence all the time, you know, and football, college athletics has changed more in 2 years than it has in maybe 200 years, you know.
Another podcast,
I mean,
right?
it's just a completely different animal. Yeah. And so, you know, I just want to do the best that I can where I'm at and do it the right way. And after 28 years, I would have thought I knew what those things were, but because the last two were relearning in a lot of ways with the transfer portal, NIL, the conference realignment, the playoff system changing, all these things are happening right now. I mean, it's completely blown up, the sport, and some of it's really good, you know. But for me, it's a new seat, you know, and so even though I'm in year 14 as a head coach, it feels like year 3 with some of these changes. Well, it is year 3. And so just that peace and that clarity on the best things to do for the program, for the kids, and for myself and my staff.
Well, Coach, I know you are a busy man. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to come in here and to share some wisdom with us and to hold up some things that, truthfully, or some of our parents might know, but it's just good to hear it from a voice who's been there, who's tried and true, who's seen some go down a bad road and has seen some have tremendous success. So I appreciate you being willing to set along some time for us. To our listeners, thank you all so much again for spending some time with us. Hey, I want to encourage you, if you've got, maybe it's a family member, a friend who you know has a young athlete that they're growing up in athletics, do them a favor and actually share this podcast with them. You never know how just a simple text message and them taking 30 minutes can actually impact not only their lives, but their children's life. And who knows, for the rest of their life, the impact that can have on others. So go ahead and share that. Coach, one final time, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Go Pack.
Go Pack. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hope in Real Life podcast. If this content was valuable for you, don't forget, like, subscribe, share. You never know how important it could be to bring a little hope into someone else's life. There's even a place here for you to comment. We would love to hear from you and hear your feedback. Until next time, let's keep sharing hope.